Hello and welcome back to Copy and, the marketing podcast where I teach you how to write copy that sounds like you but converts better. Today I'm joined by Kaili Meyer of Reveal Studio Co. She is also a website copywriter and sales expert, and we are going to yap it out about all things sales copy. Kaili, welcome to Copy
Hi,
and.
thank you so much for having me.
Kaili, I'm going to start off with just a real hard-hitting question here. What's working in your business right now?
Ooh, connections. I think caring a lot about your community, and I think this word community gets tossed around a ton, but just like being human and checking in on your people, caring about your clients beyond the exchange of money and service. I've found relationships, I think, are really like the number one driver in business, at least for me right now.
Are you doing anything unique to reach out to your people and stay connected?
I have some automated things that I've done from the beginning that I love and that got a lot of claps. I send half birthday emails where I celebrate everyone's half birthday with them. And a lot of times people don't even know it was their half birthday.
Cute.
Yeah, I think it's fun. When somebody inquires and then actually becomes a client, I always figure out their birthday. So they get birthday emails as well. But then we calculate what their half birthday is and send them like a, hey, I bet you didn't know it was your half birthday. Here's 50% off something like to celebrate the half. So doing that, I always do handwritten cards to every client when I'm done. And I think it just shows she cares. And my handwritten card is not, hey, it's Kaili at Reveal. Thanks for your project. I try to touch on things that they shared about their life, whether it was like they were moving into a new home, their husband was getting a new job, they had a new kid. Like I try to keep tabs on the things that make them human. It's really easy to just reach out as the service pro, which I still think is important, but I try to showcase like, hey, I care about you as a person more than I do about you as my client.
Yeah, I love that. And you and I both, as copywriters, spend a lot of time in other people's businesses. So connection and community is working really well for you. What about for your clients? What's working well for the rest of the world?
People who are really utilizing their unique approach, their brain, their strategy. I think with this era of AI that we are in, I think it's really cool that it gives us accessibility to certain tasks and things and knowledge maybe that we didn't have before. But I think that there's now this really unique gap for people who don't need that tool to fill a strategy gap or a knowledge gap. It's helping them in other ways. And then they're showing up with their brain. And I think that's really making a big difference for especially service providers.
Oh, let's dig into that a little bit, because I feel like we've talked about on this podcast before the difference between using AI as a tool, and you and I have had this conversation before too, like AI as a tool versus AI as a brain. And so people who are really leaning into, and this is what I'm hearing you say, like using their brain on what? Because I think there is a space for automating and delegating out to, a robot or a system.
Well, what's really interesting to me is how quickly everybody started implementing AI in marketing. And it's so funny because if we look at consumer trends, all the way from like solo service providers to like large businesses, connection, community, humanism is like the thing right now. We even just saw, if you've been watching, we're recording this at the end of June, Cannes.
Yeah.
The Cannes Festival. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Clearly I wasn't there. When they're talking about the trends that they're seeing, they're literally saying, it used to be who can get invited to the restaurant reservation. And this year, the biggest thing was like, who can get invited to the house parties? Like, who do you know it intimately enough to come into their home space? And so we're seeing this trend of like connection and being human being the most important thing. And then marketing, content, copy, where you're having the biggest opportunity to showcase that humanness and to connect, people are outsourcing it. And so I think the area that I'm seeing it in that's positively impacting business the most is when people are still creating content with their voice. And I love a script as much as the next person. But right now, with so many people doing face-to-cam video to capitalize on being more human and having connection, you can tell who scripted it using AI because now they're just vocalizing the written tells that we had, right? It's been fascinating to see how it's like we're so close. We've caught the trend. We know what's working. And then we're like, but what if to connect, we just are less human about it? And the people who aren't doing that, I do think they're seeing traction in different ways. But I think the people who are like building thought capital from their actual thoughts, sharing stories that I guess what Google would want to say non-commodity content, sharing content that like only you could have written because it's yours. I think those are really successful creators and business owners that we're seeing right now.
Which is so funny to me because it's literally what copywriters have been saying, creatives, all marketers have been saying
forever.
People want more of you. Quit doing just a post, even 5 years ago when static posts were the thing. That's what the algorithm promoted. And it would just be this Canva document or Canva image with a real zinger on it. And then you're expected to read the caption and comment whatever for ManyChat to send you an automation. We've been begging people for years to create that human connection. And like you said, it's just interesting that that's the first thing that people outsource when community and connection are the number one business builders. Right. And that's not a trend. That's going to
be the fact in 10, 15, 40 years.
Yeah. Even so, for our listeners, Kaili and I went to the same school at different times for different degrees. So were we ever in the same room? Maybe, but not at the same time. And when I was in school, I took an advertising class and they were talking about how many touches you need to close a sale. And basically, the whole premise of the idea of touches is that the more potent you make them, the less time you need to close a sale. So if you're out, let's say it's summertime, you're at the fair, you're thirsty, and there's a new water. Like I remember when Liquid Death first came up, 3-4 years ago. And it's like, you're going to try a new product for the first time right then and there because the touch is potent. They know who you are. They know their demographic. You're hot, you're sweaty, you need a can of water. Boom, they've got you on a can of water. Those less potent touches are going to be the ones that are less human, are the ones where you're getting ads, you're seeing it in magazines, in coupons. If you go through your junk mail ever, you need more touches to be able to close a sale. People are begging for a human connection, and we're going for volume rather than potency, I think, in the age of AI. But so yeah, people want more of your brain, but then everybody's like, well, great, how can we still shortcut this? How can we put it into AI? So my argument would be that people are looking for consistency in your voice rather than they don't necessarily need you on every single time you post something. I know you have opinions about AI and what AI is looking for, too, in that layer of consistency. I've seen you talk about this. Do you want to take a minute to talk about consistency?
So I think a lot of people have understood that we need to have consistency across website pages, right? The way you read your homepage, the voice. If I go from home to about to services, it shouldn't feel like I'm all of a sudden having a conversation with or being spoken to by 3 different people. And what's cool, but just adds a layer of depth of thinking when coming up with your content plan, is now these tools, so like Google and LLMs, so like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, have the ability to scan every public-facing account or platform of yours. So, for example, it's going to crawl your website to figure out who you are, what your point of view is, what your voice is. If your Instagram is associated with your website and your Google business page is associated with your website, it's going to check those as well and try to come up with the appropriate way to summarize you, the appropriate type of person to recommend you to. And so having consistency across anything that's public facing is really important. And so the area of caution, I guess I would give business owners who are utilizing AI as like a big content creator, is if somebody read your website and read your point of view there, read your non-commodity content there, and then went to your Instagram and then went to your LinkedIn, is it fully consistent? Or is there this, like the way you speak about maybe your approach, how you define strategy, what have you, the same? Not just in terms of like tone of voice, but like, are you using the same language? Are you framing it the same way? Can I look at them separately and know it's still you? And a lot of people, from what I've seen, fewer people are using AI to write their entire website than the people who are using AI to handle Instagram and to handle Threads and to handle LinkedIn. And so I think they're just creating these micro gaps where when somebody goes into Google, especially as Google is shifting to be more AI powered, and says, hey, I need a really good website copywriter. I'm thinking I want them to be somebody who has experience in this area, who uses this approach. It's going to be scanning all your stuff, and you have to hope that it says, oh, this is who this person needs. And if you're not consistent, it's going to go, oh, well, I thought when I read the website, but then I went to the Instagram and now I'm like, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a client who has an accessibility tool, and we wrote her website to say it's like spell check for accessibility. And it's this really great Chrome plugin. You click the button and it scans your website or it scans your email and says, hey, your font size is too small. It's this, it's that. But she knows that the name of her product and the technical jargon just isn't going to work. So when she says on all platforms, and she has it in her pinned posts and she talks about it when she's on podcasts, that it's spell check for accessibility, she's saying that everywhere. And it's something that's quick and memorable. So I think it's more about, too, not just saying, because nobody's going to search and be like, who's a brand designer that has a really clean voice, brand voice, da-da-da. They're not searching for brand voice. They're searching for the things that you're actually saying. And someone could argue that that's your message versus your copy and whatnot. But you're right. It has to be consistent across all platforms. And I saw somebody say the other day, and I haven't looked into this. Maybe I will have by the time I hit publish on this in August. But that it's also learning to crawl your emails. Do you know anything about that?
From my understanding, yes, it does crawl your email. I don't think it's utilizing it the same way that it would utilize your Instagram content. When it's crawling your email, from my understanding as of today, it's doing so that it can prioritize in the inbox. It can put it into buckets, but it has to be public facing. Just like 10 years ago, SEO was like whatever is indexed and crawlable and Google knows exists. And then Google started bringing in other platforms as well. Your emails aren't public facing. And so I would be shocked if it's utilizing that in that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like I know Kit just released its MCP. I know Flowdesk has something similar where you can also share your emails. I know Flowdesk has a really easy button for this. I don't know about the rest of them, but you can share. So if I was like, Kaili, I'm not on your list. What did you send last week? You can send me a link to that email without me being in the email. So that's the only way that I know of that it would be able to really crawl an email, because it is sent to a private platform. But yeah, you have to be talking about more or less the same things in the same way across your blog, your Substack, your website, your social media.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's two sides of it, so that people can search via AI or non-AI search, but also so that your freaking people understand you in the same way. And if you're following an algorithm that's going to write it all for you, then you're just going to be a moving goalpost that people aren't going to be able to really nail down who you are, what you do, and what makes you.
And I've been talking more about is how LLMs, again, Claude, Chat, Gemini, how they function slightly differently when it comes to recommendations than Google. So traditionally, historically, you go to Google, you type in a keyword query, and then it's going to be crawling websites to figure out whose website is matching with these keywords and the most relevancy. Well, an LLM is doing that and also searching for fit. And so if somebody has used Claude to talk about their business problems, their favorite clients, their favorite people to work with, their LLM is learning all of this information about them. That then when they go, I need a designer, it knows more about that person than Google does when you go to Google and you just type in brand designer for copywriter. It's going to be asking itself not just who aligns with this query, but who or what do I think the best fit for this specific person is. And if you don't have a very clear and consistent point of view, if you're not clear and consistent about your process, your outcomes, your case studies, how you like to work, it's not going to know who to recommend you to, and it might just summarize you instead, or just never surface your website as a clickable option.
Yeah. Yes, and the way that people are searching is totally different than it used to be. It used to just be like, car wash near me. And now it's like, what's a car wash that is big enough that it's not gonna like mess up my super duper big truck or
conversational prompts.
Clearly get my car washed a lot and clearly drive a really big truck.
Huge.
Yeah, it's conversational the way that people are interacting with it. That I'm going on a road trip, and if I were to search like landmarks between Grand Rapids and Detroit, I'm going to get something very different than like my partner and I are going on a road trip. This is what we enjoy. We would not like to be involved in any craft breweries, and it'll be a Saturday, so I need to make sure everything that you send me is open. We're going to get a different output, but we're also putting a different input into it. So what's your prescription then for people who are writing their own copy, but also like messaging themselves online? How do you land that without being just like weird keyword stuffing generated content.
Because it's not actually about keywords. You still need to consider like foundational SEO work. So like keywords still have to be there. If you are a sales and website copywriter for a specific type of industry or business size, like those words need to be on your website. It's not about that though. It's about a couple of really boring things. So it's about structure. It's called machine readability. When a machine is going to read your site and determine what you're saying and who you would be a good fit for, it needs to be able to understand how your site functions. One of the boring things people have to take into consideration is the user journey, the buyer journey, the headers that you're using, the literal words on your CTA buttons. It used to be, and it still can be, we just have to be a little bit more careful. It used to be that you made the words on your CTA button so fun and so like, heck yeah, that's me. When AI is reading your website and it says, oh, found a button says, heck yeah, that's me, it might not have any idea so what am I supposed to do here? So number one is your structure and the way that you're building out the copy on your site. Number two is non-commodity content. So just make sure that there is copy and content on your website that only you could have written. If I can slide it over to your competitor and somebody else could have feasibly said it, that's not what we want your entire website to be. So this might be like if you have a signature approach, there's some branded vocabulary that you use, the client you were saying, spell check for accessibility, like that's essentially non-commodity content. It's going to get attached to you. So it's caring about that. And it's being yourself, like showing your personality, your voice, as obviously like the brand personality. But for a lot of founder facing brands, the personality is very similar to theirs. So it's showing up with that. And then honestly, 99% of it is just maintaining the same copywriting best practices that copywriters have been telling you to do for decades.
And that was my next question. Has the way that you write copy for yourself and for your clients changed since the advent? We'll go back 3 years when everybody started using ChatGPT. And even in the last 3 or 4 months since Google changed their search algorithms.
I think it's changed a little bit. There are other things. There's like smaller things I'm checking for now, caring about a little bit more about finding the balance between asking ourselves, okay, if Google AI summarizes this or Claude or Chat summarizes this, how can I find a way to add a one phrase or a paragraph somewhere that hopefully it pulls that instead of like trying to piece it together? How to balance that with how do I still showcase my client's personality and what they do differently? I don't think it's changed a ton. As somebody who, I've been writing websites for 8 years at this point and started learning about and utilizing AI 3 years ago. So for me, I don't think there's been anything that's like, wow, that's so drastic. But there are little things that I now ask myself. First and foremost, if a human lands on this website, are they going to know what, the who, what, when, where, why, how, and are they going to be able to function on this and navigate it appropriately? Second question. And are they going to be able to catch a vibe? Like, are they going to know if this is the right service provider, product, whatever, for me? Second question. If a machine reads this, is it going to know how to utilize this page, what it's here for? Great. And then my third question is, where somebody was at in the buyer journey when they got on your website is starting to change. Now, if they've already asked AI to do the preliminary like checks on the thing, like what you were saying, where you kind of gave it more of the parameters, when they land on your website, they're really looking for like 2 or 3 things. Number one, they're going to verify that the information, because AI makes mistakes, Google makes mistakes. They're going to verify the information they got was correct. But number two, they're already further in the buying journey. They already almost feel like a friend recommended this. And now like, okay, well, Sam told me I can trust this photographer, but let me go just do my due diligence. And so we used to have to do a little bit more education on the homepage, maybe on the services page, just like more copy. And I think we are maybe entering an era where we don't have to do that so much. It's still important, especially in certain industries, but I just don't think as much.
Yeah, and I think for myself, as I've been writing, I've almost been having more fun with writing copy since we know how AI is affecting search, because it gets to be so much more conversational, where we still have to fit those keywords in, but it feels like you're entering at a different buyer's point in the buyer's journey or in the funnel. But also it really drives home the importance of getting things in client voice and getting that feedback from clients so that you can use client voice, because how they are talking about our copy is exactly how they're going to be searching for copy recommendations. So yeah, I think it's been more fun.
Yeah.
Even though I would say for myself, I agree that I don't know that it's changed the way that I write copy. I'm still keeping keywords and buyer's journey and the hierarchy in mind. But it's like, if we're going to pretend that we're talking to computers, we might as well have a little fun with it.
I would argue it's been more fun writing for AI recommendation than it was trying to optimize for traditional SEO.
Tell me more.
I think kind of what you're
How's that?
saying, it's just less about, so like if you were trying to hijack 8, 9, 10 years ago, SEO, you did it in such a boring way. Like the people who won at SEO really was like keywords. We saw the advent of blogs, but really blogs became less about connecting, less about sharing your general POV, sharing stories, and more about this is a tool to improve SEO. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think it put a lot of us in positions where it was less about, I'm excited to write this, I'm excited to share this, I actually think this is relevant, and more about, damn, I'm really trying to rank for these couple keywords and these phrases, and so I need to get some content out about it. And I think like anything else, you figure out what the rules are to win. And then you say, just like people are doing with AI, all right, so how can I do that but faster and more efficient? And I guess with the non-technical sides of AI recommendation, the answer to that is like, be so yourself on every platform that nobody else sounds like you and nobody else is saying the things you're saying, and we'll know then who to recommend you to.
Which it feels so funny that that's a full circle moment, that by computers kind of ruling the world, we're forced into being more human and having these standout opinions rather than just being like, about Kaili, our signature process, that it's forcing us to be more unique human to compete with other humans who are using robots.
I agree. Very strange. But it's kind of fun. The other thing I will say, this is kind of like random, that's been interesting as a copywriter is the roller coaster we've been on, where it was like, oh my God, is AI coming for your job? Okay, wait a minute. Like, I think everyone had like a little moment of, oh snap, oh snap, oh snap. Like, is it going to come from marketers and creatives? And then like you turn and you look at all of the AI companies, and it's like the people that they're paying some of the most money to are copywriters and marketers and communication specialists. So you're like, okay, well, if the companies that created these tools aren't using them in this way, then like maybe we do have a job. And then you start to realize like, oh, actually, copy is like one of the most important, impactful tools to succeed in business right now, even more so. And so I think it's just been like this roller coaster of like figuring out like, what does this new tool mean for marketing, copywriting, business? And that's been like an interesting thing to experience as well.
Where do you think we're at on the roller coaster?
If I had to answer that right now, I do think there's going to be a moment of settling. And then I think one of two things is going to happen. Either they're bamboozling us and they are actually creating models based on all of this information, and they're going to eventually try to replace or get to a place where they can replace the need for the type of work we do. Because I don't even think it's just, can they get a chat model to write like a human? I don't think it's that. I think it's like, can they change the fundamental platforms of consumerism enough that what we do isn't relevant anymore? Not even because a machine can do it better, but because the way we find businesses and connect with businesses changes and our need for businesses changes. I think that's an option. And I think a secondary and potentially equally relevant option is we just stop using models in this way. We get to a place where it's like, hey, you guys, we really picked the lowest hanging fruit and we've tried to run with it, when ultimately AI's power lies in these other things that we were not thinking about. And a couple of years from now, we'll be like, remember when everyone was so convinced that their Claude carousels were really good? And we're going to just be like, no one's using it in that way anymore.
Yeah. Right when we first opened, we said it's wild that people went to using AI for marketing. Where do you think people should be using AI more?
I don't think it's fair to say what I think other people should be doing. I think people need to do what's right for them. But if I was advising somebody, if somebody came to me and was like, how do I use it? I would use it more as an operating tool. I would ask yourself, what things in your business don't currently require a human touch, in the sense of, yeah, maybe a human currently has to go in and do the buttons and the admin work and the stuff that you're like, this sucks. But it's not like, if a machine did it, it's not going to take away from the quality experience. It's not going to take away from your joy, your creativity. It's not going to take away from the experience the client has. So I think depending on the industry and the business, that looks different. Like maybe that is within your CRM, maybe that is within your POS, but wherever you can keep the human, I think we should be trying to keep the human. And if something doesn't require a human, if a human doing it does not make it better or improve it, then I guess that's an area that I feel like outsource to AI. And then alternatively, I think more people need to be asking themselves, how is AI changing the lives of consumers? And what do I need to shift about my business, my marketing to win at that? Because so many business owners, like the chatter I'm seeing is like, how do I use AI? How do I use AI? And it's like, you guys, your customers and clients are also being forced to use it. And I don't think enough people are asking themselves like, well, how are they using it? And what does that mean I might need to shift? Whether that's the way that you're writing and sending your emails, whether that's the way you're structuring your website, whether that's like all these other things. I think people are way too excited and interested in, how can I use it for marketing, for copy, for design, whatever. And ultimately, we need to be thinking about both.
The message I've been seeing a lot of recently is that it's not that using AI is helping people work less, but produce more. I think that that's an interesting facet of the conversation, is that like, but is what you are creating, does it have longer legs? Is it getting better reach? Is it connecting with your people on a deeper level? In that, like, is it creating community, or is it simply automating a task that didn't need to be done or should have been done better in the first place?
100%. I have a friend who works in AI at a very high level, and she was saying, and this is fascinating, one of the problems they're seeing is that in these roles, like let's go to a client service role. Like you're on the phone with clients, you're trying to help them. With AI, creating these efficiencies in the admin and the operations and the tasks that require less brain space, less brain power, right? With it taking over those, people are burning out at such a faster speed, because what that means is that your entire morning, your entire 9 to 5 shift then is big brain work. I relate to this because when I brought in an assistant, I say this to my assistant, I actually have 2 right now, and I literally feel like I don't know how people run full-blown businesses without help. But there are days where I almost am like a little jealous. I'm like, I want to go in and just like tinker with the back end of Flowdesk and Honeybook and like do some of this work that requires not less brain necessarily, but brain in a different way. Admin still requires brain, but it doesn't require as much strategy or creative thinking. When I stack 3 days in a row of writing top to bottom website copy, I genuinely feel like I need a vacation. I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And so that's something interesting with AI, where it's like, if it starts taking away doing all the stuff that like we don't love doing, or not even don't love doing, it's just like, feels like those little admin things that you're kind of like, this is annoying. I don't want to create this zap. I don't want to go in and do this. Well, then our entire day is spent doing the big brain work. And it'll be interesting to see what that does to business owners.
Yeah, I'll be super curious as well. I want to wrap up, but I want to give you an opportunity to hold the audience's hand, look deep into their eyes, and say, if you take one thing from what I've said today, this is what it is. This is what I need you to hear. So take my hand through the screen.
Oh, wow. One thing.
And speak to me. Tell me the one thing that is just like, y'all, if you don't do anything else, hear me on this from a copywriter.
Give me a minute. One thing. I think I would say put yourself back in your business. I've seen so many people extracting their voice, their personality, so many people confusing efficiency or getting something done for getting something done better or for getting an actual result. And I'm just watching people feel like oh, if I outsource all of this either to a person or to AI, but mostly to AI, it's going to allow me to do all of these other things better. And I guess I would just say, put yourself back in it. Whether that looks like once a week, don't even allow yourself to open AI and use AI. Like you need an AI free day. Or if it means like, hey, start using it in ways that aren't marketing and messaging, but just put yourself back in your business. Like I want to see more of the founders. I want to see more stories that don't feel curated. I want to see more like honest ideas. Yeah, just put yourself back in.
Yeah, absolutely. People want more of you. People buy from you. People buy things that solve unique problems in unique ways, and you're the only person who's able to do that.
Exactly.
So, Kaili, thanks for sharing your brilliance. Where can people get more of you on the internet?
Well, thank you for having me. On Instagram at revealstudio.co, online, www.revealstudioco.com. And I have a shop as well, which is right on my website. And if anybody is currently going, wait a minute, is my website set up for search and AI recommendations? I did create a resource that you can go in and basically have it crawl your entire website, and it checks it against so many parameters. This took weeks, but it was worth it. So many parameters against sales psychology, voice, POV, non-commodity content, AI recommendation, machine readability, on-page SEO, visibility. And it will crawl your site and flag anything that is not doing you service. It'll score you on red, yellow, or green. Red being like, you need to fix this immediately. Yellow being like, you should probably consider this. Green being, you're doing great. And tell you exactly where the problem is and exactly how to fix it. And so that's been a tool that I built for myself because I had this feeling of like things are changing and I got to the SEO game a little late. It's been incredible to have.
As people have been using this, what's one of the top things that people have realized over and over is wrong with their website?
Yeah, a lot of people are realizing structure and machine readability is not there. What's so funny is everyone buys these templates, right? And then you put your template in and you replace the images or you replace these sections. Well, if you don't go in and delete the text that the machine can read, the machine is saying, I keep coming up with your image here, put your image here. And people are like, but I do have an image there. Everyone got obsessed with putting screenshots of testimonials. Well, a machine doesn't do as good of a job at reading an image. And so what they're saying is like one of the top 2 ways to get recommended is having your proof points right next to your claim so that when a machine reads it, it goes, okay, Sam says she can get you X, Y, and Z. And then there's 3 testimonials directly after it confirming she can. Well, if those testimonials are screenshots of somebody sending you this great DM, even proving that point, a machine might not be able to draw that conclusion. And so then it's not going to tell the person searching like, hey, yeah, Sam's trustworthy. There's this proof. It might say Sam says she can do this, but this person proved they could.
So what's the solution with that? Maybe this is where they need to get the audit tool, but is it to put metadata on it so that it tells the machine what it's reading?
It's to write it. You need to put it as readable text or as both.
It just has to be text.
It doesn't. Here's what's tricky. You just don't know what LLM somebody's using. LLMs, people assume Claude can do everything,
Sure.
Chat can do everything that Gemini can do. Like, it's not true. We don't know. And there's models that like I've never heard of. I mean, there are so many models out there. And so not everyone has the same capability. And not everyone, like, depending on what you asked it or prompted it, it might give you something different. So I'm not saying like throw out all your screenshots, just like make sure proof is listed in different ways. But yeah, I guess metadata would be one way to see if it could circumvent that issue.
Yeah, brilliant. I named this podcast Copy and because it's copy and all of the other parts of marketing. It's copy and making sure that what you're writing is actually freaking readable, whether that's font size, like if you're using a script font, if it's readable by people who are using accessibility tools like screen readers are not going to be able to read that, and also readable by the AI gods. So super incredible tool. I'm stoked. I've been seeing all the people who are using it and just absolutely raving about it. So I will make sure that that's linked in the show notes. Kaili, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your brilliance.
Thank you for having me. You have a better day.
I'll do my best.